Hello and welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are going to completely shift how you understand the way fame actually impacts human psychology. I mean, we see it all the time, right? A seemingly normal, totally down-to-earth person achieves massive success, they step into the spotlight, and then give it a few years, and they're caught in some bizarre public meltdown. Or they just suddenly seem completely unrecognizable to us. We honestly kind of love to watch this happen, and we love to blame it all on the fame. We just assume the money and the flashing lights simply broke them. But what's actually happening behind the scenes, in their minds and in their day-to-day lives? Well, prepare to have your perspective entirely flipped as we dive into the fame mirror, staying real in a distorted world.
Let's just jump right into this by completely challenging a massive, widespread cliché. I want you to genuinely question what you think you know about celebrity behavior. Whenever someone becomes famous and starts acting super erratic or totally out of character, our immediate cultural reflex is to just say, wow, fame really changed them. We literally treat fame like it's some kind of magic potion or a toxic gas that seeps right into your brain and fundamentally rewrites your DNA overnight. But does it really? Does the mere concept of being known by millions of strangers magically alter your core personality?
Well, here's the profound answer to that. Fame doesn't change who you are. It changes how people treat you. And this right here, this is the absolute core thesis we need to understand to grasp the real mechanics of fame. The spotlight itself literally has zero inherent psychological power. It is entirely a social phenomenon. The transformation that happens to a famous person does not start from within. It starts from the outside. It all begins with the sudden, incredibly jarring shift in how the rest of humanity interacts with them.
So let's look at part one, the distorted environment. What really changes?
Think about it. If the internal person isn't actually changing on day one, what exactly is changing in their immediate external world? What does that shift actually look like when you wake up on a Tuesday? Well, it all comes down to people's behavior around you. First off, there is simply way more attention. Just eyes on you all the time. Then comes the praise, and it is often incredibly exaggerated. People start agreeing with you way more than necessary, mostly out of a desire for proximity to power, right? They want a piece of the pie. But obviously it's not all positive. You also get much harsher criticism, often from completely faceless crowds who now view you as an object rather than an actual human being. But the most dangerous part? Hidden intentions. People start hesitating to challenge you. They might try to benefit from your newfound status rather than just treating you like a normal person. Your environment essentially gets totally distorted. Imagine walking into a room and suddenly everyone is either terrified to disagree with you or they're trying to extract some kind of value from you. That is the wild, jarring new reality.
And because of this strange new reality, your relationships immediately begin to fracture. Your social circle essentially splits into two very distinct camps. On one side, you have your transactional connections. These are the people approaching you purely for your status. They're hoping some of your spotlight rubs off on them, or maybe that you can advance their career. But then on the exact opposite side, you have your genuine relationships. Because authentic interaction becomes so incredibly rare, those few real connections, the friends who knew way before, the family members who could not care less about your follower count, they become exponentially more valuable than they ever were before. It's a really stark absolute divide.
Which brings us to section 2, the false mirror.
So when your environment warps and your relationships fracture like that, it leads to a fundamental breakdown in normal human communication. Let's compare the before and after. Before fame, you get natural, unfiltered responses from the world. If you tell a terrible joke, your friends are going to groan. If you make a mistake, someone is going to quickly point it out. You are kept in check by what we could call social gravity. But after fame, responses become heavily filtered. Criticism either entirely vanishes to your face, or it becomes weirdly indirect and passive-aggressive. Meanwhile, you're just getting hit with this tidal wave of validation, even if it is completely undeserved. I want you to really truly imagine that for a second. Think about living a life where everyone around you laughs hysterically at your absolute worst jokes, where nobody ever tells you that you have spinach in your teeth, and where your absolute worst ideas are called absolute genius. It might sound fun for like a day, but long-term, living without that social gravity is incredibly destabilizing.
And this exact breakdown creates what we call the false mirror. This is a distorted feedback loop where reduced criticism and increased validation make it incredibly hard to see yourself clearly. And listen, this loss of an honest reflection is the real danger zone. When you look out at the world is supposed to act as a normal mirror, showing you who you are through honest reactions and natural consequences. But fame bends the glass. It turns your life into a funhouse mirror, constantly showing you a skewed, overly flattering, wildly exaggerated, yet totally inaccurate reflection of yourself.
And the really sneaky, indirect power of fame relies on just basic human nature. We adapt to our environment. It's what we do. Your surroundings, your feedback loops, and your daily pressures have fundamentally changed. And if you aren't acutely, constantly aware of this happening, you are naturally going to adapt to this new distorted reality. That is exactly how people lose their groundedness. It's how they develop a massive ego or just simply become completely disconnected from how normal life actually operates. It is not a sudden snap of the fingers where someone wakes up and decides to become a diva. It's a slow, steady, creeping adaptation to a bizarre environment that constantly tells them they are the center of the universe.
All right, let's move to section 3, the amplifier effect.
So the deeper truth here is that fame acts as a massive amplifier. It just turns up the volume on who you already are. Let's say your pre-existing trait is that you're deeply grounded. Well, the result under the intense pressure of fame is that you become a highly responsible, influential person. You use the platform well because your foundation was rock solid to begin with. However, if you are deeply insecure before the fame hits, the false mirror makes you entirely validation dependent. You become paranoid, you're constantly refreshing comment sections, and you literally need that constant, unearned praise just to psychologically survive. And if you lack self-awareness going in, you just simply drift away from who you were entirely, floating off into a reality of your own making. You see, fame doesn't invent new personality traits out of thin air, it just pours gasoline on the ones that were already quietly sitting there in the dark.
When we really zoom out and look at the complete overarching picture here, we can confidently say that fame doesn't change you directly. Instead, fame changes the people around you, and that altered environment can slowly, subtly change you if you aren't extremely conscious of it. It is a two-step process. The spotlight shifts the room, and if you aren't careful, the room shifts you.
Finally, section 4, how to stay real.
So knowing all of this wild psychology, how does anyone actually survive it? Well, the people who stay centered through massive success aren't just lucky. They are highly, fiercely intentional about protecting their reality. Staying the same person requires intense self-awareness. It demands that you actively construct and protect honest feedback loops. Like you have to explicitly ask people to tell you the harsh truth. You must maintain grounding habits to keep yourself rooted in the real world. That might mean doing your own grocery shopping, washing your own dishes, or engaging in hobbies where you absolutely aren't the expert. And above all else, you need to surround yourself with people who absolutely insist on treating you totally normally. You literally have to fight every single day to keep that mirror clean.
I want to leave you with this incredibly powerful thought today. Fame tests your identity, not by changing you instantly, but by changing everything around you until you forget who you were. It is such a profound reminder of the immense power of our environment. So I have a question for you, whether you are famous or not. Look at the people around you right now. How honest are your own feedback loops? Are you looking in a clear mirror, or are you just seeing exactly what you want to see? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep seeking the absolute truth in your reflection.